We now come to the urgent question. Shall Secretary of State James Gartley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To ask the Secretary of State for Defence if he will make a statement on his department's plan to procure nuclear-certified F-35A aircraft.
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The UK will purchase 12 new F-35A fighter jets and join NATO's dual-capable aircraft nuclear mission in a major boost for national security. The Prime Minister has announced at the NATO summit that the UK intends to buy at least a dozen of the dual-capable aircraft, which can carry both nuclear and conventional weapons. The NATO Secretary-General Mark Rutte has said this morning the UK has declared its nuclear deterrent to NATO for many decades, and I strongly welcome today's announcement that the UK will now also join NATO's nuclear mission and procure the F-35A. The decision will support 20,000 jobs in the F-35 programme in the UK, with 15% of the global supply chain for the jets based in Britain, supporting highly skilled jobs and opportunities for working people and delivering a defence dividend across the country. This announcement responds to two recommendations in the Strategic Defence Review, Recommendation 30 and Recommendation 46, that the UK commence discussions on the potential benefits and feasibility of enhanced participation in NATO's nuclear mission and about the mix of F-35B and F-35A. The purchase represents the biggest strengthening of the UK's nuclear posture in a generation. It also reintroduces a nuclear role for the Royal Air Force for the first time since the UK retired its sovereign air-launched nuclear weapons following the end of the Cold War. The UK's commitment to NATO is unquestionable, as is the Alliance's contribution to keeping the UK safe and secure, but we must step up, all of us, to protect the Euro-Atlantic area for generations to come.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you for granting this UQ. You will recall that the government's plan announced today to procure nuclear-certified F-35As was previously covered in the Sunday Times the day before the SDR was published. You therefore granted a UQ that day on this very subject. We received no meaningful answers at all, and I hope that the Minister can be more forthcoming today. So I wrote in the Express on the 25th of May that our nuclear forces needed to be even more resilient, including CASD, but also, and I quote, potentially by diversifying our methods for delivering nuclear strike. The reason for this is that we have to recognise the threat posed by Russia in particular and its ability to operate nuclear weapons at tactical and theatre levels. To deter effectively, we must be able to do the same. So in principle, I welcome this announcement, but have the following questions. What is the anticipated in-service date for the 12 F-35As, and will they already be nuclear certified, or will that occur after delivery? We note that the 12 F-35As will be ordered instead of 12 F-35Bs, but will the government still order the remaining F-35Bs as planned? How will the F-35As be air-to-air refuelled, given that the current RAF refuelling capability is probe and drogue? On operational sovereignty, we are fully committed to our strong military partnership with the United States. But given this is about diversity of delivery, has the Department given any thought to additional tactical options where we have greater industrial input, e.g. Storm Shadow and Typhoon? To conclude, Mr. Speaker, ironically it was Lord Robertson as Defence Secretary in 1998 who removed our last air-launched nuclear capabilities, and it is noteworthy that as one of the authors of the SDR, he said in front of the Select Committee recently that the authors were, and I quote, not terribly enthusiastic about it. And that's before we get to the Deputy Prime Minister and the Foreign Secretary who voted against the renewal of Trident. Yep. But on this side of the House, we wholeheartedly back our nuclear deterrent. And doesn't this show why we need a robust plan to get to 3% on defence this Parliament, rather than Labour's smoke and mirrors plan and a lack of fully funded planning to properly increase defence spending this Parliament?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, in terms of the in-service date, as the Secretary of State said this morning, we're hopeful that these aircraft will start delivering before the end of the decade. In terms of whether or not the tranche being ordered, which will now include 12 F-35As, yes, we will still be ordering the remaining F-35Bs, so that's 15 extra F-35Bs in the next tranche. In terms of the refuelling, this is a NATO mission, and NATO, of course, will be able to do the air-to-air refuelling. It's quite normal for different allies to contribute their different capabilities, whether nuclear capable or whether conventional, to NATO's nuclear mission.
Kelvin Bailey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I rise to welcome the announcement and on behalf of the Defence Select Committee to represent our welcomeness at the additional detail that's been added to the SDR. However, it's imperative we recognise and close some of the gaps in our national defence, including the size and shape of our combat armed air force, and that this announcement does part of that today. But 14 years of underinvestment means that some of the choices about basing and complementary capabilities will bring about some challenges. Would the Minister provide any additional detail on how some of these may be addressed?
Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased that my honourable friend is supportive of the announcement. As the House is aware, this government has increased our defence spending by more than at any time since the end of the Cold War, and it is fully funded, unlike some of the fantasy plans of the previous government. We have shown how we will increase to 2.6% of GDP by 2027. We have made it clear. It's fully funded. We've made it clear. We've made it clear how we will get to 3% in the next Parliament if as conditions allow. And this announcement today at NATO about the 5% is something that all allies will be focusing on funding in due course over the next 10 years. NATO will be checking every year, as it always does, whether or not its requirements are being met, and we fully expect to be able to meet them.
Helen Maguire, the Liberal Democrat spokesperson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's clear that we've entered a new and uncertain era. The threat posed by Putin's imperialism represents a once-in-a-generation threat to our security. We must maintain the effectiveness of the UK's independent nuclear deterrent to stop Putin or anyone else from launching a nuclear attack. It remains the ultimate guarantor of Britain's security. We support more investment in our defence capability, but we need more detail on the proposed use cases for the F-35As, its relation to our existing and strong deterrent through Trident, and a clear explanation on why it has chosen their priority over others. Indeed, there are still huge gaps in our armed forces, including the 10,000 troop cuts by the Conservatives, which need filling if we're to show Putin that we are serious. So can the Minister confirm, therefore, whether it will move further and faster in rebuilding the strength and size of the other essential guarantor of UK security and deterrence, the British Army?
Mr. Speaker, I'm glad that the Honourable Lady supports these measures, and as I've already made clear, this decision is not at the expense of also buying more F-35Bs. We are going to do that. The extent to which we fully implement the SDR will be decided, and in what order we do implement the recommendations will be decided through our investment plan, which is being worked on now, will be fully published and available in due course. But there's no doubt about the fact that, as she says, the threats that we face are increasing. We need to make sure that with our allies in NATO, we are capable of deterring those threats, and this decision will assist us in doing that. By joining the NATO nuclear mission, we'll be able to play our part. As we said in the SDR, NATO first, and our commitment to NATO is unshakable.
Alphonse.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And can I commend the prompt procurement of the F-35, a fixed wing. It's of huge strategic importance. However, this is creating already some great uncertainty in Lancashire, in Chorley, Mr. Speaker, in my constituency of South Ribble, where the workforce of the Typhoon Eurofighter. Can she please assure me that the government will still constantly look at procuring the Typhoon aircraft for the RAF, but also is there not a huge opportunity here now as well, with our NATO partners all increasing their defence spending, to urge them and encourage them to procure the Typhoon Eurofighter as well? Thank you.
Well, I thank my honourable friend for his comments, and of course that what we're talking about today does not preclude any support for Typhoon. We're very committed to our Typhoons. We are committed to upgrading them as per our already existing plans. We are engaged in many efforts to export. Some of which one would hope would come off at some point in the not too distant future, and we are very keen on making sure that the skills and abilities of the workforce at Wharton are fully utilised. And of course we have Future Combat Air GCAP, which will also utilise those skills into the longer term. And of course many people working for BAE Systems, not at Wharton but at Samlesbury, do indeed make parts for the F-35, and so they, I think, will be pleased to hear the announcement today.
Lincolnshire.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I join my front bench in welcoming the answer to the urgent question that we've asked today? Maybe it should have been a statement. But can I ask about the autonomy and the national sovereignty when it comes to the weapons system that will be deployed from this aircraft? There are considerable press reports that it's going to be dual key, namely the Brits can't use it without American say-so. Is that true? And if so, why has the Ministry of Defence elected for that option rather than full national sovereignty?
Mr. Speaker, we have a fully sovereign national nuclear capability, CASD, which is dedicated totally to NATO and to protecting the European homeland. The current decision is about joining the NATO nuclear mission. Any mission under that requires the agreement of the NATO Nuclear Planning Group of 31 allies who act as the senior body on nuclear matters in the alliance. So the UK will also always retain the right to participate or not to participate on the basis of that governance arrangement.
Jones.
Mr. Speaker, can I just say how much I welcome this announcement and the extra capability that it will bring. Could the Minister just outline how it will support jobs across the UK and particularly for those in my constituency of North East Derbyshire who work in defence?
Well, Mr. Speaker, the procurement of the F-35A and the next tranche of F-35B, it will support 20,000 jobs across the UK with over 100 UK-based suppliers who contribute to the F-35 programme, demonstrating yet again that defence can be an engine for growth because these are good jobs across all parts of the nations and regions of the UK, including my honourable friend's constituency.
Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I fully welcome this announcement. I thank the Minister for making the statement. But in an age of uncertainty about the reliability of our US ally, it does seem an odd choice to be leaning into them and in the sense that we will be dropping dual-key US-made munitions from these planes. It does make more sense if this is a stepping stone to a fully sovereign UK capability, which then raises questions under the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. Would the Minister comment on whether this is a stepping stone to a fully sovereign UK capability?
Mr. Speaker, it isn't such a step. We are joining a NATO nuclear mission. And we have just published a strategic defence review that sets out the fact that our defence posture is NATO first. We're trying to support our allies in NATO to deter any potential threat that might come from possible adversaries. That is what this is about. It's not a stepping stone to anything else.
Kevin Bonham.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also welcome the announcement of the increased capability of the F-35As that will be brought to the defence of this country. This announcement, in line with the Strategic Defence Review, shows that this country is once again serious about defence. By now joining NATO's nuclear mission, can my honourable friend tell the House what response we've had from our NATO allies to this position?
Minister.
Well, I welcome my honourable friend's support, but we've had strong support from our allies in NATO, and indeed during the course of replying to the honourable gentleman's urgent question, I did read out the response of the Secretary-General, who was very, very fulsome in his praise.
Then the best check.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I think the Minister is probably well aware of my interest in the F-35 programme. Lockheed Martin manufactures around 150 jets a year, and there are currently nearly 600 on order across everyone from Switzerland to Singapore, on top of the 1,200 still to be delivered to the US Air Force. So whereabouts are we in the queue? She mentioned that we would expect to see the first delivery before the end of the decade, but are we going to be cutting to the front of the line effectively? Given current orders aren't due to be fulfilled until 2032 for some of those allies, will we see delivery of all 12 planes completed within a decade? And just quickly on refuelling, can she clarify that we have no sovereign air-to-air refuelling capability outside of a NATO mission?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the honourable gentleman, who I know has a very close interest in these matters because I have to answer all his parliamentary questions. And I welcome that interest. As the Secretary of State said this morning, we're hopeful that we can start having delivery of these planes before the end of the decade. The honourable gentleman is right, of course, that any manufacturing capability has queues, but they're also subject to contractual discussions and arrangements can be made. So that is what we're aiming for, and obviously we will keep the House we'll keep the House informed as to how we manage to get on.
Luke Capers.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Sorry.
Luke Capers.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I welcome the news that our deterrent capability is going to be enhanced in this way and made more flexible with another step in the escalatory ladder. Given that this is a US aircraft with substantial UK industrial participation, a US weapon and US-UK decision-making and a NATO mission, will the Minister agree that it's a powerful statement of the strength of the special relationship between the US and the UK and the strength of the NATO alliance?
Well, I agree very much with both of those points that my honourable friend has made. It does indicate the strength both of our alliance with the US, but also the growing strength of NATO.
Dave Dougal.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I don't understand industrially or militarily why F-35 is the default choice if it's going to be delivered by the end of the decade. Why is Tempest not being considered for this, which will be delivered by the middle of the next in the 2030s and is more than capable of delivering, assuming you agree with being part of the nuclear sharing enterprise, which I don't, because no other state who is nuclear armed takes part in nuclear sharing. No other P5 member delivers any other nation's nuclear deterrent, and no nuclear power in the world delivers anyone else's nuclear weapons.
Minister.
I hear what the honourable gentleman says. We are committed to buying 138 F-35s. This is part of the next tranche of F-35s. And we've substituted 12 F-35A for what would have been 12 F-35B. So in that sense, Mr. Speaker, this is a change to the mix. This was something that was recommended in the Strategic Defence Review, and one of the recommendations that was that we should consider the mix. We've considered it. One of the recommendations was that we should rejoin the NATO nuclear mission. We've considered it, we've consulted, and we're acting. Already we have implemented 2 of the major recommendations of that SDR, and I think that given the welcome the SDR had around the House, we should all be glad to see the implementation of those recommendations.
Tristan Osborne.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I thank the Minister on the very welcome announcement of the F-35A programme, which comes at a time where this government is increasing defence spending at a rate not since the Cold War. BAE Systems, in my constituency, is one of those leading on this programme to support avionics for our forces, and I know there is an outstanding invitation for her to visit. But can she confirm this announcement will mean a significant increase in jobs and opportunities, including apprenticeships for local people and young people and constituents across my area and the country?
Yes, I'm reminded of my promise to visit, which is on the list. It's on the list. It's going to move up closer to the top of the list after today. I agree with what my honourable friend has just said, and it's absolutely key if we're going to deter our potential aggressors and our potential adversaries, that we implement the findings of the SDR, that we increase our capability, and that is what we're doing.
Sir Julian Lewis.
May I encourage the government not to be at all bashful about the fact that the decision on whether or not, heaven forbid, one of these weapons should be used will be an American one. There is a long tradition of American nuclear weapons being based in NATO countries, not least the cruise and Pershing missiles of the 1980s, which helped end the Cold War. So will she confirm, therefore, that not only does this actually fill a gap in our deterrent spectrum, but it also reasserts the commitment of the United States to the defence of the other NATO countries?
Well, the Right Honourable Gentleman is correct. It does all of those things, and I think he's made a very good point.
Chris Bangle.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I welcome the acquisition of the F-35s, not least for the impact it's going to have on industry and jobs in my own constituency. In answer to the question about refuelling, my honourable friend, I think, described very well how this new capability meshes in with existing NATO capability. Could she say a little bit more about how this capability supports not only the defence of the UK, but also our NATO allies?
Well, my honourable friend is correct. In addition to the industrial benefits that we ought to glean from this increasing F-35 order, it's absolutely right that it strengthens NATO. And that is what the Strategic Defence Review said. We should focus on NATO first. That's what we're doing. And rejoining the NATO nuclear mission is a very striking commitment, a commitment that we made, a recommendation that we've accepted that we're now implementing.
Thank
you very much, Mr. Speaker. I also welcome this announcement. But can we talk about money? We already know that 20% of our defence budget is spent on the nuclear deterrent. It is disproportionately expensive. If we're extending the nuclear capability now for these airdrop weapons, what impact will that have on the budget for the rest of our conventional armed forces?
Well, I welcome the Honourable Lady's support. The F-35As are actually cheaper than the F-35Bs, and so the fact that we are replacing 12 F-35B orders with 12 F-35A orders does actually mean that it's a cheaper option. So she doesn't have to be too concerned about the direct impact of this decision on budgets. The total cost of procurement, the next tranche, including the 12A models, will be an estimated £3.2 billion. But these were plans that were there that we are now funding.
Mr. Speaker, will my honourable friend join me in praising the Rugby No. 1 branch of the Royal British Legion, who I believe are in Tesco this week for a service, and also the Hill Morton branch of the RBL, who will be holding a ceremony on Armed Forces Day. Look, I was very pleased to see that this commitment will support 20,000 jobs across the UK in the years to come, with over 100 UK-based suppliers contributing to the F-35 programme. Does my honourable friend agree that this demonstrates that our national security and economic security go hand in hand, and that this government will deliver that?
Well, can I commend the Honourable Gentleman's Royal British Legion branches who are getting on with what many of us are doing in Armed Forces Week, which is attending events that show our appreciation for our armed forces in every part of the UK. My honourable friend is correct. In addition to deterring our enemies, supporting NATO more strongly and our allies, there is growth potential, and we can have economic benefit from the spending that we put into our armed forces and our capabilities.
Ms. Savile-Roberts.
The proposed NATO 5% target will be split into two categories. A new, broader set of defence-related items at up to 1.5% of GDP, alongside a commitment to spend at least 3.5% of GDP on traditional defence. Can the Minister confirm the UK Government's commitment to Article 2 of the NATO Treaty, the development of peaceful and friendly international relations, and confirm that funding for UN peacekeeping missions qualifies as defence spending to NATO, and that this budget will not lose out on the increase in the MOD budget?
Well,
Minister.
I would argue that defence spending, Mr. Speaker, is to create peace. It's not to fight wars, and it's actually cheaper to deter wars than it is to end up fighting them. And so I would argue that our commitment to 2.6% it will be by 2027, to 3% in the next Parliament, and then on to the 5% target, including the 1.5% more broad definition by 2035, shows a very strong commitment across NATO to do just that. Let's deter these wars.
Mark Seward.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I welcome the Minister's response to this urgent question today. The purchase of 12 new F-35A aircraft will increase our nuclear capabilities and does show that our commitment to NATO is unshakable. Now, as the chair of the Yorkshire and North Lincolnshire APPG, I'm always on the lookout for opportunities for growth in my region. And given that this announcement supports 20,000 jobs and places 15% of the global supply chain in the UK, can the Minister say how this will benefit my region and how she will ensure that all of the investment, the jobs, the growth opportunities will be spread to each part of the UK?
Well, I can't say precisely if any of the 100 companies that UK-based suppliers on this programme are in his constituency or in his region. I'll have to go away and look it up. But I do know that that these procurements do spread prosperity around the whole of the UK, all of our regions and nations, and that is one of the great things about the defence industry. It provides jobs and growth across the UK.
So Geoffrey Clifton-Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I welcome the Minister of Defence Procurement's announcement today. This is welcome news for our country. Given that key pieces of military equipment in service dates are often later than predicted, has the Minister given any thought to training our pilots in advance of delivery, either on a simulator or by embedding them into a unit that operates these planes around the world, so that we're ready to hit the ground running as soon as they're delivered?
The right honourable gentleman is correct. Anything that can bring in-service dates forward slightly by planning and training in advance is something that we will be in favour of trying to do. And I think it's much more the case these days that those arrangements are thought of at the same time as the procurement. So I'm absolutely certain that we'll be on to the point that he's made.
Dr. Scott up.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And just following on from the previous question, I do have to declare that I have flown an F-35 simulator. Dramatic pause.
Yeah, be going there.
And that is because there's companies in Edinburgh involved in the supply chain, and I was really keen to see what is they're constructing. So I welcome the Minister's leadership on this. It's a fantastic sign that we are absolutely committed to NATO. And it's also a fantastic advertisement for our young people who are looking for a great career. They have to look no further than the RAF. But much of the discussion is focused on the nuclear capabilities of the aircraft. Can she confirm that this aircraft has a much wider role than that and can be put to much greater use?
Yeah, well, my honourable friend is correct. This is a dual-capable aircraft, and it won't only be being used to fly NATO nuclear missions. It will also be available to do things such as training and to all the other things that our fantastic pilots in the RAF do.
Caroline Bell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I feel like a lone voice, but in an increasingly unstable world, I personally find it quite harrowing that the British Air Force might be flying planes that can drop nuclear bombs and where that might lead. Under this agreement, could the Minister tell us whether tactical nuclear weapons will be stored on UK soil, and if so, what safety and security measures will the government be undertaking for their storage?
Minister.
I'm not sure I quite understood that question, Mr. Speaker. I think what I can say though is that it's not it's not normal, and it's not something we do to confirm or deny whether or not where nuclear weapons might be stored. It's not something that we've ever done. I think that's what she was asking, but I'm not absolutely sure. I'm happy to speak to her afterwards if I've got that question wrong.
Dr. Andrew Morrison.
Have any alternative platforms been considered for the potential delivery of a tactical nuclear weapon? In particular, has the government looked at the Astute class attack submarine as an alternative or additional platform, and its successor, the SSN AUKUS?
Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, we're not seeking to broaden or widen our range of nuclear capability. We're joining the NATO nuclear mission and contributing to that. So, as I said earlier, this is not some kind of stepping stone into acquiring tactical nuclear weapons. Our nuclear deterrent is in CASD, it's submarine operated, and that's how it will continue.
Other chance.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The prospect of UK fighter jets carrying Donald Trump's nuclear bombs cannot be anybody's vision of security. This decision flies in the face of our obligations under the Non-proliferation Treaty. It ties us further into a US military that cannot even keep its own classified intelligence secure. It ties us further to a Trump administration that is the very definition of a loose cannon. Given the inescapable truth that nuclear weapons make the world more dangerous and that normalising tactical weapons is incredibly reckless, how can she possibly justify this decision?
Minister.
Well, first of all, Mr. Speaker, what I've announced today is compliant with the Non-proliferation Treaty. There is compliant with the Non-proliferation Treaty, and there isn't any question of the NATO nuclear mission being. It has as a governance. The NATO nuclear planning group of 31 allies, everybody gets a say, and so it's not a question of it being Donald Trump or any other US president's nuclear bomb. This is a NATO mission to defend Europe and to do what NATO is set up to do, which is to deter another war.
Andrew Snowden.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. On the 6th of January this year, in this chamber, I asked the Minister, given that refurbishing Typhoons won't even touch the sides of maintaining the 6,000 workforce at Wharton in Fylde in my constituency, and relying on export orders that have not secured, will not keep the workforce in work for now before the GCAP project comes online. In response to that, when I asked her whether she would give a delayed Christmas present of 25 Typhoon orders, she said, "It might not be a Christmas present, I don't know when his birthday is, but a present at some time later." Well, it turns out the SDR contained an empty box when it came to a present for Typhoons for the Wharton site. So if she wasn't simply buying time and giving false hope to the workforce there, when can we see the order of 25 Typhoon jets for the RAF?
Minister.
I don't think that the previous government was committed to buying Typhoons, so I don't see why you should be so outraged about the fact that after less than a year we've not yet ordered any more Typhoons. We are committed to the Typhoon fleet that we have. Any further considerations of buying more Typhoons are going to have to be considered in the investment plan. In the investment plan that's being worked on now, we are, and that other European nations are buying some Typhoons, so there is some work there for some. I know that they're not assembled at Wharton if other nations buy them, and we have export orders that we're trying to pursue. So although I can't advance what I said to him in December before Christmas, it is something that I'm very conscious of, and we will continue to do what we can to see what can be done about the future of our Typhoon fleet. But we're committed to the fleet that we've got and to the upgrades that we need.
No, Chester.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. In response to an earlier question, I was pleased to hear the Minister commit to seeking to compress the timetable between delivery and in-service date. I believe I heard the Minister say that the the delivery date was back end of the 2020s. Can she confirm the anticipated in-service date?
Minister.
I can't confirm the anticipated in-service date beyond saying that we're hopeful that we'll get them as soon as possible and that we'll be able to use them as soon as possible thereafter, subject to all the usual requirements to get something in service. That's as good as I can do for him today, I'm afraid.
Jeremy Corbyn.
Mr. Speaker, the Minister just confirmed that the UK adheres to the Nuclear Non-proliferation Treaty. That treaty requires nuclear-armed states, the declared nuclear-armed states, to not allow proliferation and to take steps towards nuclear disarmament. What she's announced today is an increase in nuclear capability, construction of new nuclear warheads that can be used, obviously, anywhere in the world by airdropping them. Can she explain how it is possible to announce that this is in compliance with the NPT when it so obviously and so clearly is the very opposite of that?
The right honourable gentleman is wrong, I'm afraid. This is in compliance with the Non-proliferation Treaty. The NATO nuclear mission would carry US nuclear weapons, which are already subject to the Non-proliferation Treaty. And so what we're announcing today is buying aircraft that are capable of assisting with that mission, not purchasing new nuclear weapons. And I hope that that is clear for the right honourable gentleman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Clearly, the aim is to enhance what NATO has as a defensive structure. Can she confirm that this is not a substitute for any of our other NATO allies who are withdrawing aircraft from service, and so we're actually adding to the potential threat that we actually cover in case we're attacked?
We are adding some of our capability by purchasing these weapons to the NATO nuclear mission, and that's something that's been welcomed by allies and by the NATO Secretary General. It is improving the position for the NATO nuclear mission.
Dr. Elpink.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the Minister for his statement today. With the announcement of the purchase of these 12 F-35As, there is concern expressed that I've read this morning from defence analysts about the size of this fleet and whether that truly represents a capable either offensive launch or indeed a capable deterrent. But if I could just ask the Minister to clarify, in earlier statements I think she's both said that these F-35s are part of the current F-35 purchase envelope, but I think I also heard her say that potentially these F-35s are in addition to the F-35s currently on order. I'd be very grateful for clarification on that point. And finally, can the Minister also offer any reflection on the effect that this purchase has on our commitment to the GCAP programme?
I didn't, for clarity, say that this was in addition to I did not say it was in addition to our already committed tranche of F-35s. What I said was that we were substituting 12 what would have been F-35Bs for F-35A. So it's not in addition, but our tranche of we already have 39. We're committed to. We've already purchased 48, not all of which have been delivered. This is a tranche of the next 27, 12 of which will be F-35A, 15 of which will be F-35B. So it's part of the next tranche of acquiring the F-35s that governments of all stripes have been committed to over the time period that the F-35 has been in production.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm sure the Minister recognises that in addition to this plan to diversify the deterrent launch method, the UK must ensure that our strategic custody enterprise has an effective and productive industrial base, delivering faster maintenance times. So therefore, can she confirm whether or not these aircraft will be budgeted from the ring-fence defence nuclear enterprise budget?
Very good.
Minister.
The ring-fence defence nuclear enterprise is not for purchasing aircraft. It's for dealing with our submarines, and it's a fair question. I hope that that's a clear answer.
Jim Shell.
Sorry, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much. I was in automatic pilot there. Miles away. I'm going to sit back. Sorry, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Very kind to bring me forward. Can I thank the Minister for her answers? Positive and strong. It's just what this United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland needs today. So thank you, Minister. Thank you for that. I welcome the news that these jets are to be procured. Having watched the red arrows intricate manoeuvres in Newton hours on Armed Forces Day last Saturday. I know that our skilled pilots are world class and deserve the tools to do their vital job. However, I also recently read that the Royal Navy has failed to meet recruitment targets regularly from 2011. So what can the Minister do to get boots in the planes, on the boats, on land, through enhanced recruitment, particularly of our Royal Navy at this very, very important time? Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, part of our commitment to defence reform is to try and improve our procurement and acquisition to make sure that we meet our contract aspirations more quickly, that we've got more control of the budget, there are more direct lines of accountability, and that it will be clearer if things are going wrong, that there should be interventions. And so I think that the defence reform agenda that the Department is undertaking at the moment should improve our acquisition and procurement arrangements.
John Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you for the rare opportunity against the run of play to follow my near neighbour from Strangford. Mark Rutte, the Secretary-General for NATO, has today congratulated President Trump on his decisive action against Iran, which he says makes us all safer. Will the Minister take the opportunity to do what no one in government so far has done and also congratulate the Americans for taking out the Iranian nuclear programme? Or instead will she then explain why we are out of step not only with the Americans but also now with NATO?
Minister.
Well, I think it's been fairly clear from proceedings in the House that the government has said that we agree that Iran should not have a nuclear weapon, but that in this instance we were very keen that diplomacy is a way forward.
Dr. Neil Hudson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In Armed Forces Week, I want to thank our brave servicemen and women who do so much to keep us safe. I welcome the Minister's response to this urgent question tabled by His Majesty's opposition. But can the Minister give a cast-iron reassurance that our continuous at-sea nuclear deterrent will be supported and maintained by His Majesty's government, and that they will not contemplate any reduction in the submarine fleet from 4 to 3 submarines, a policy alarmingly floated by the third party not so long ago?
Minister.
Well, I've been very clear, and the government's been very clear about our commitment to the continuous at-sea deterrent, to procuring the new dreadnought boats and the new warhead, so I can give him an absolute assurance on that.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. UK has 225 warheads and a number of nuclear-capable submarines that are in a position to fire at any adversary at short notice. We are now investing in aircraft that can deploy nuclear weapons. As a signatory of a Non-proliferation treaty, wouldn't that be seen as an aggravating feature for nations that are also subscribed to it?
No, Mr. Speaker, our continuous at-sea deterrent has been policy of both governing parties for many years, and that has not changed. The announcement today is about us joining the NATO nuclear mission, which carries US weapons that are already accounted for under the Non-proliferation Treaty, and it isn't about increasing the number of nuclear weapons that we hold, and it's not therefore a breach of the Non-proliferation Treaty.
Robinson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. As a member of the RAF contingent of the Armed Forces Parliamentary Scheme under Wing Commander Vasco Smith, could I take this opportunity? I know the application window is open for next season. If any member hasn't applied to it, they should. Recently we visited Marham, the current home of the F-35s. Can the Minister update as to what risks or what steps have been taken to remove the risk of attack on centralised basing and to continue to invest in alternative dispersal bases for our aircraft? And also, while these additional frames are welcome, will the Minister confirm that this is being matched by concurrent investment in the training of not just pilots but additional crews and what will be required advanced skill sets for these operations?
Yes, the Honourable Gentleman is correct that one can't just buy aircraft and not train the relevant people, whether they be pilots or engineers or ground crew, to deal with the necessity of looking after them and operating them. In terms of security, I think that my honourable friend, the Armed Forces Minister, made a statement yesterday, Mr. Speaker, or the day before, about the review that's being conducted into the security of our bases, and I hope that that will be reported in due course.
Right, that completes the urgent question.